Design school doesn't really prep you to own or run a business.
Our audience is not just potential clients, but also a huge group of students. I would hate if all I did was approve things and look at things.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Breaking Uneven podcast. We love to talk shop, uncover the beauty of failures and play a few games. Today we have with us the co-founders of November, Juhi and Shiva. Juhi went to University of Arts London, worked at TSK Design and then worked at Landor in Mumbai and then co-founded November. Shiva, you went to Maryland Institute College of Art. You interned at Maryland and then came back to India as an independent practitioner. Co-founded November and then went back to Maryland Institute as a designer in residence and faculty member out there. So, how are you guys today?
Good, thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you for having us.
Perfect. So since November is what has brought you here today, we have a quick little game for you.
So this game is called the Twitter Pitch Challenge. Twitter is known for its 280 character limit on every tweet, which sometimes makes it a little difficult to convey your thoughts. It takes about 20 seconds to speak 280 characters, and that's the challenge that we transfer to you, which is to explain to us November in 20 seconds. But it's not that easy. You also need to use one emoji and one hashtag in your tweet. So we'll be playing multiple games through the course of the podcast. So for this one, which one of you is going to go first?
Go.
I'll go.
So we've got a timer.
Okay. November is a plural design practice working at the intersection of design and typography, ABCD emoji. Founded by Shiva Nallaperumal and Juhi Vishnani, based in #Mumbai.
Oh, not bad at all, Joe. Well done. Nice. Juhi, you have a tough one to
Well, I have to
follow
say
up.
it again.
You have to say something slightly different now.
Ari?
Oh.
But this is all November does.
Give it a different angle.
November works across various different industries: fashion, dress emoji, tech, phone emoji, media, TV emoji, and publishing, book emoji. #diversity.
Yeah, good enough.
Nice.
Okay, so a lot of times, like you meet your co-founders at university or like school and things like that. Given that y'all went to different universities, how did y'all meet?
Actually, we went to the same undergrad university.
Okay,
So that's where
yeah.
we met. So
Yeah.
we met about 14 years ago.
2010,
In 2010 in Coimbatore. That's where we did our undergrad. And we were like 1 year apart. He was a senior by 1 year. So yeah, that's where we met.
Nice. And then like stayed in touch throughout.
So
Yeah, I mean, we started dating.
Oh.
we started dating first.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we have a lot of ideas that are very common in terms of what we wanted to do. And so since then it was a plan to start a studio because we felt like all the designers that we liked also kind of what do you say?
Had their own practices and they sort of like we also liked the idea that everyone we admired sort of attached their own personality and their own core identity to their practice, which we were very inspired by. So we always had the plan of, starting our studio together.
Very interesting. I think like having the same interests, then doing something together, and then also being with the person is like a lot of pressure on like a lot of fronts.
It's a lot of pressure.
So like, how did y'all navigate that? Was that I guess a conversation before y'all started November as well? Being like, okay, how are we going to navigate this?
Not necessarily like a conscious sit down conversation, but I think we always knew that this is going to be our future, that our personal and professional lives are going to merge at some point. I think we just took it as it came.
Yeah.
I think the conversations we had were more about how to navigate this because, to be honest, design school doesn't really prep you to own or run a business, right?
Yeah.
So our priorities were more in terms of figuring out how we do that to make like sound financial decisions and not to like screw it up.
Because the design wise we were very confident.
Yeah.
We're both very good with clients, we're good with work. The thing that we had no training in was the money part. So that's what we kind of been learning all this time. But navigating the design world is something we enjoy anyway. So
And then, given that both of y'all went to, reputed schools, and as y'all said, y'all were always confident in design, why didn't y'all choose to go for, let's say, a job or to be independent practitioners,
right.
kind of freelancers, instead of like, co-founding a studio together?
So, like Juhi said, we really admired. A lot of the designers that we really grew up like looking at and kind of emulating had their own practices, and wasn't just that. Like she said, it is about we liked how the designers' personalities and their core ideas came through in their work. So their identity is attached to their work, and we really liked that, and we liked having that idea that we would eventually do that too. So in that sense, we didn't start November immediately after. Juhi, we both had different interests in the industry. Like Juhi had more.
Yeah, like I like the bigger picture stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to work at places where I can see how different verticals of every project sort of take shape together, right? I like that. Like I like to know a little bit about everything. So that's why and I also really wanted some industry experience before we started November, because I felt like, I need to know how things work before I do my own thing. So that's why I worked at TSK, which was like a I wouldn't say small setup, but compared to Landor, a smaller setup. So that gave me more of a more boutique setup. So that sort of led to a more hands-on experience with the verticals involved. And at Landor, I felt like it was it sort of opened up a lot of avenues of things that I had never considered before, like client servicing, business management. Like all of these verticals were separated. So for me, it was a good insight into these as well. And that experience from my side sort of is what I brought to November. And for Shiva, I think he was very focused on honing his skills further and further.
Yeah. So that period of time after Mica for me was just freelancing. And I was more interested in the cultural work, smaller, more in the art space, in music, in film, things like that, and type design. So type design is a core part of our practice as well. And that is something that I really developed at that time. So when we started, we had this large industry global experience, as well as the really detailed, small kind of, small scale, but detailed cultural projects. So, and that's what we do now. We work with really large brands and really small brands, and it's about what the project needs and is about.
So let's talk about these large brands, right? Y'all have worked with massive clients such as Uber, Apple Music, New York Times, just to name a few, like very few amongst your entire roster. How did you get into these rooms?
Yeah,
I think actually it's embarrassing because we still don't have a website, right?
Yeah.
So we have I think a lot of it is contacts and just building connections over the few years. So Shiva worked as a type designer, is working as a type designer with a lot of international designers as well. So that network is a very tight network that he's created over the few years.
Like, for example, I'm an Indian type designer, and there are not too many Indian type designers. So, and the type design world is a really small one, and they're all really great people, and that's what happens with a really small group of nerds, is that we really nerd out on really specific things, and we make really good connections. And when Uber was creating their rebranding, when they were working with Jeremy Mickle on the Latin typefaces, he reached out to me because we already had a sort of relationship on social media of being friends and being fans of each other's work. And that's how it worked. So usually all of our projects that we've seen culminates because of someone we met somewhere in a conference, or
some sort of an Instagram relationship you have with someone you've never met.
Yeah. Once I remember this one person reached out to me on Facebook when Facebook was a thing about, I think he was a year younger than me, and was I really like your work. I'm trying to navigate the scene, if you had any advice. So we spoke about it back then. And then years later, he was the head of marketing in one of our clients. And so we got that project. So oftentimes, we've always found that things culminate 4 or 5 years after a conversation that you probably don't even remember. So we've been very, very lucky in that way. And also clients lead to other clients, our...
word of mouth.
Yeah.
Just that,
the person we worked with on the Uber project moved to another big corporate, and then we got that project. So... It's about creating relationships and connections.
Yeah, y'all had experiences before y'all started November. So are there any things that were absolutely things that you would not repeat while starting your own studio?
Yeah, I think so one thing is that we never really had the idea of a large team. We always wanted a smaller setup. We wanted like a flexible system. Because we also sort of, didn't, when we started, we didn't really know where it's going to go. Like it was very organic. So we knew that, we don't want to outright hire multiple designers on our roster. So that is, I think, one big thing that I've learned, because we knew that, see, what happens is when you are an art director who's directing like 10 different designers under you, you only end up giving instructions.
Yeah.
So Shiva and I are both like very hands-on with everything we do. So we like to be a part of everything we're doing. So we knew that to be able to allow us to do that, it has to be a smaller team.
And the thing is, like she said, I would hate if all I did was approve things and look at things. Because then more and more, the people whose reputation the studio is built on are less and less involved in the actual projects, which I don't think we wanted. So we very consciously in all these years, even though we worked on massive projects, we have kept our team really small, and we've created a larger roster of collaborators who we work with on specific things like animation or type design or whatever. And that allows us to also do the work. So when clients work with us, they know that they're dealing with us, the founders, exactly on everything. And we're also doing the stuff that they are looking at and approving or whatever. So I think that is one thing that this is not something we planned earlier. It's just happened that way, and we find that to be one of the advantages that
for sure. Like that's rare, right? Like because it's like any studio that starts eventually wants to grow, and like you said, that it ends up becoming delegation, and then you become more of a business person versus a creative person. But at the core of it, you all are creatives, so like you don't want to just do the business part of things. So then I guess getting to your team, what does your team currently look like?
To be honest, so this is November 6th year. We started in 2018. It was just the two of us till about 6 months ago when we hired our first full-time designer.
So now it's 3, and again with a roster of collaborators who we bring on per project, which also keeps it very dynamic, keeps the work also really fresh. But I don't think we'll ever go, again, I'm going to say this and maybe it might change, but at this point, we're not looking to hire like a 200-person team and like whatever, so
sorry, like in terms of like your collaborators, is there like a set group of people that you generally go reach out to, or like do you all try and like mix that up as well?
We do. We have like, say if there are animators, we have like 4 or 5 different animators that we really like working with. So depending on what the project requires, whose skill sets match the requirements, is who we
so you essentially like have a roster for every
but also we have a list of people we'd like to work with, more younger talent who, we get a lot of messages on Instagram, on email of really talented photographers, animators, type designers who just want to be on the list. And we do have this list, and we try to kind of work with as much people as we can. Of course, everything in the end depends on the client's budgets, but we'd like to create a system where we work with a lot of different talent.
So Shiva, in your Twitter pitch challenge, you said y'all are a plural design practice, right? And plural, I presume, means multiple design principles that y'all can service out of November.
Disciplines,
disciplines. And so when do you decide, for example, because you yourself do a lot of typography yourself, when do you decide to collaborate with another type designer, and why would you decide to do that?
So usually it is in terms of multi-script projects. So we do a lot of multi-script, like where there is a project we design Devanagari, Tamil, Gujarati, all these different.
You just did a project.
Yeah, with commercial type on graphic. So in that case, I specialize mainly in Latin script and creative direction of Indic scripts. So in that sense, we work with designers to work on the other scripts. And we prefer to work with people who are either natives or really good in whatever script we're working on. So we work with our friends Hitesh Malviya on Devanagari, Gujarati. So he's a specialist in multi-script. And even though he's not Tamilian, he designs the best Tamil typefaces, in my opinion. And another friend we work with is Arya Purohit, who's also a multi-script person. He designed Bengali for graphic. So we work with people whose skills complement ours. It's not just a matter of delegation. It's almost always an equal collaboration. So that's the instance where that happens.
Fair. And in terms of, so y'all mentioned that, for example, a lot of the projects or clients that y'all have got has been with the, through the conversations that y'all have had, the rooms y'all have been in, etc.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like now y'all are those people giving opportunities to others, right? But a lot of this is led by Juhi Vishnani and Shiva Nallaperumal, right? Like your personal brands matter a lot. And I've seen when y'all post also, it's like mainly through your accounts on social media, not through November.
Yeah.
So what is that balance? Is that something y'all are trying to fix?
It's not on purpose at all. It's only because we've slacked. Like we are terrible at documenting. Okay.
It's not just that. See, it's an advantage and a disadvantage in the sense, since we started, because we were able to build up an image before we started November, when we both came together started, there was enough, I wouldn't say hype, but like knowledge in the industry or adjacent industries that, okay, these two people who we know are creating something new. And that gave us the advantage of getting a lot of clients in the beginning. And we've just been busy, which we don't, I mean, it's a good problem to have. In that we didn't have time to document or present our work and create a website. So now we've actually, in the past year, since 2023, we've taken time out, said no to projects so that we have time to work on this thing, which we are in a very good place now, finally. And we're now at the stage where the website is programmed and ready and we're uploading projects. And so we thought the November Instagram, we'll wait till we have all of this content.
Yeah.
And then we want to really put time and effort into the social media presence, and where we also talk about our projects, talk about process, because our audience is not just potential clients, but also a huge group of students.
Also, I think we've always been very conscious of how we want November's image to be, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just easier to post from like personal accounts, because November Instagram would take effort.
Yeah.
So that's
and
where
it needs that.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's where we've sort of fallen short a little bit.
And we are very relaxed with our own accounts. Like we don't really craft it or whatever.
I mean, I am completely dormant on my account.
Yeah.
So it's
She
But
only
I feel
stocks.
yeah,
if
I'm just a
y'all
stalker.
really do the whole website, social media shebang by now, y'all would have done it. Right? Like if there was a need for it.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
since 2018, I think there hasn't been a need for it. Otherwise, y'all would have got to it at some point.
Correct. Yeah.
And now it's more of an archive rather than, it's not a marketing exercise for sure.
Exactly.
And the fact is also that we have returned to India after 2 years.
Yeah.
And we have actually never put in that much work or like things into November's brand or anything specifically. So that's something we want to do now, because with a design studio, it's not like any other company where you have a clear idea and then the company helps you make that.
Yeah.
For us, it really depends on the clients that we get, and we really can't control that. So our identity since 2018 has been based on the kind of work that we've gotten and those opportunities where whatever skills we had to learn or try out. So that's really created who we are. So while we wanted to create a website when we started, we realized that we don't have anything to say yet. You know, all of that is still coming. So I think now after 6 years, we feel now we have something to say. We have this experience of working in all these different things, and now we know who we are. So we realized that when we started, we had no idea who we were. We were just two individuals, but we don't know anything about November because there was no content attached to it. So now there is. So there, this website would make sense now,
Which will be like a very interesting perspective overall, because like y'all said, y'all are, I guess, bad at documenting per se. But the idea is like right now, a lot of people document to put it on social media to get clients, to be known essentially. But like given that y'all already have that network around you, you aren't doing it with the idea of necessarily building your brand name socially in terms to get clients, but rather like provide knowledge or like experiences that y'all have had. So I think that perspective is something, I guess, different in social media right now, because a lot of people are trying to be more salesy versus like educational. So
we won't say we're 100% educational. With the website, one of the goals is to see what kind of clients we'll get with this presence. So till now, a lot of our clients are people who know each other. There have been a few clients who have come to
out
us
of nowhere.
out of nowhere, like, out of Instagram, whatever. So we're interested to see, once we put out the website, what kind of people it will reach and what that could happen. But there is this side of the education, not education, I wouldn't say, but more like, because it does have a side where we're writing essays about our
Yeah, I mean,
process.
the intention is not to educate.
Yeah.
I think we're just writing because we want to document it in
Yeah.
a written format. So we just do that.
Because reading other design studio websites and their
Yeah,
process is
it's-
really what made
we
us.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
To be honest, the Curious website almost serves a similar purpose. Right? Like
Right.
we
Yeah.
have an archive of the work that has been
Right.
submitted to our awards or the conferences we've done,
Yeah.
and then we have like a knowledge dump of everything we do.
Right.
But we don't really need the website. Like the only people that go to our website are the people we send there for like, okay, you can go to the KCA website,
Right.
the
Yeah.
KDY website for this,
Right.
etc.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if you all have seen, we did a revamp of the website
Yeah.
recently, which was, the only reason for that was to like completely simplify it compared to the absolute like madness it was before that. And since then, oddly enough, like now at least once a week, I get the email outreach for anytime someone gets in touch. I get an email outreach saying that, hey, we are the media buyers for, I don't know if I can say the company name, but basically
Sure.
a company that does online gaming, and they want to buy like media spaces in India. And so we really liked your company and the fit that it has for us. Can you help us?
Right.
And I'm just thinking that how on earth does the current Curious website show that we are media buyers?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I feel like the entire like, it really depends on the industry that you're in, how useful a website is going to
Yeah.
True.
Which is why, again, going back to the point that I feel like, now that you'll have an archival system you'll want to use it for, it makes sense. But otherwise, I don't
No, because
think...
a lot of times our friends introduce us to someone.
Yeah.
That I know, that's a pain point I have felt for.
Yeah.
Where I don't know how to show.
Yeah.
like- yeah.
So, and also, I mean, the website is essentially our portfolio. So I think it's important for clients to see the kind of range we worked with.
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no one that goes to your website that hasn't been sent there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would feel like your website is not the kind that you are going to SEO the crap out of it, hoping
no,
that
no.
people land on it from
Yeah.
Google,
Top
right?
20 design studios
Yeah.
in India, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, another thing I guess is that y'all work together, and given that y'all are the only team per se, given that most of the people that you work with are collaborators with you, how do you navigate any kind of like arguments or any challenges that y'all face, difference of opinions and things like that, given that there's also no one else that you can really like mediate between, and it's
Right.
just y'all?
I think we've never really had differences that have required like someone to call truce.
Yeah.
See, I mean, we have very different interests in life. Just generally, as people, we are two very different people. But I think professionally, we pretty much align on everything.
Yeah. Like, actually true. In personal, we have almost nothing in common. Like, in the sense, we don't like the same movies, same music, nothing. And it's always like one person dragging the other person to watch a movie they want, right? And then, of course, what we have in common is the fact that we think these things are important. You know what I mean? Like I like a certain movie. If I have to drag her and force her to watch it, I don't think it's like, why do I have to watch this? You know, in the end, we'll still discuss it and what it means and, all of those things. So it's just a matter of taste is different, but what we want out of life is very much the same. And that's the same with the business as well. Like we're interested in different things, even within work. And there are specialties that we have that the other person doesn't. Like, for example, we complete each other in that way. Like I do type design. That is a specific field. And Juhi is not much interested in that, but she's a typographer who uses typefaces, and she's more of an editorial designer. So layouts and really the nitty-gritty nerdiness of how, rags should happen and all of that is her department. So in that way, it has been very complementary. So when we do have, say, arguments, it's mostly stylistic, which is not
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
building off of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like also both of you all love the color black. That's another.
Hey, she's ripping me off.
That's
okay?
nonsense.
This is my original.
I'm sorry. I think he's just like hijacked this identity. I also very much love black.
No, but I think also, see, the dynamic between y'all, right? Like, yes, y'all have found your groove of working, but when it comes to working with creative talent outside of the two of you,
Yeah.
and it's no secret that working with freelancers is not easy, right?
Mhm.
Like it is for, let's say, even a company like
Yeah.
Curious, it's very tough to work with freelancers because it's almost like you're managing another team member but who's not really a team member, and it's almost like
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit of an oddball. So have you all had any difficulties in doing that when you all collaborate or bring on board extra members to the team for a short period?
I think in terms of giving direction, the one thing is that I think both of us trust one another to take over something. Like if suppose, like he's taking charge of a certain aspect of a project, I don't need to think about it because I know it'll be taken care of. So I think over years, we've sort of built that sort of a relationship where at least between us, we don't have to keep track of
Yeah.
what the other person is doing.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to hiring someone else,
It's always been it's always unpredictable, like
Yeah.
depending on people.
it depends on who we're working with, right? At what level of experience they bring, what kind of an attitude they're coming in with. And it's not, I don't think we've had a bad experience per se. It's
No.
just always been about you sort of have to direct everyone differently.
Yeah.
So you sort of have a little bit, like initially it's always a little bit of I would say not even friction, but a little back and forth to figure
Yeah.
out, for us to figure out, how this person is going to receive feedback the best way.
So our thing has always been the people we return to have more than anything else professionalism
Yeah.
and punctuality. I
Yeah.
think that I would place that way higher than talent
Talent, yeah,
and
for
skill.
sure.
And to be honest, the people who are really punctual and really diligent are the ones who are talented.
Yeah.
Very rarely, I think, that stereotype of, oh, this crazy talented person, but is like what do you say? What is the term for it?
Well,
You know the
responsible.
stereotype, nah,
Yeah,
irresponsible
like the
creative
thought
person.
difference.
I think that's a minority.
Yeah.
There have been a few people that we worked with like that, but it's very rare.
Yeah, because
But-
no one's going to respect your work if you're not
Yeah.
delivering
Yeah.
on time. So,
But like Juhi said, it's about, we just need to analyze how to give feedback and how to get what we want out of this project. But mostly it's been really great. Like, I don't think we've ever had a problem where we've had to fire someone, or nothing like that has ever come up. But also we're very, very selective with who we
Yeah.
work with. And we are, obviously we're perfectionists and we work with perfectionists. So it's always been good.
Yeah, very interesting. You mentioning how it was like there's like some level of trust between the both of you all, where like you can trust each other to work. And then like over the conversations we've had, any co-founders that have been either partners or best friends or friends in general and have decided to work together, I think like two important things are that they take different parts of the business so that they know where it lies. And then the second part is trust. Like they know that, okay, fine, like this person's going to do a good job about this. And like my part is either finance or either the marketing or either something else. So like, I think that is, I guess, two key things that I've at least learned throughout the podcast, being like those make something other than co-founders work. Like when someone's more than just co-founders, it works that way better.
But to be honest, for us, it's not separated like that either. Like
Okay.
both of us do client
Yeah.
servicing, both of
Yeah.
us do the actual design,
yeah.
both of us are involved in the money. So
It's just different projects, different
Yeah.
parts. Like
yeah,
we just.
we split it per project, I
Yeah.
would say.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's
it's
very
not-
fluid. Like we don't
Yeah.
have like a solid structure. So that's why it
Yeah.
also takes us a while to find someone who'd be a suitable fit to work with us, because it's a very flexible structure. Like
and
not
some people
everyone
thrive
can.
in it. Like
yeah.
we thrive in it.
Yeah.
But we want to create a little bit more structure in this year, because we've never had an
not by
office space.
splitting our responsibilities,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
more in terms of like working hours and things like that. Because personal lives, professional lives, always merging for us,
Yeah.
and because it's always been just the two of us. In the middle of the day, if you decide to go for a movie, we will, and
Yeah.
we'll sort of compensate for that time at night.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can't do that when you have other people working for you, right?
Yeah.
So then those are things that we sort of have to structure out.
Sorry. No. I was just gonna say, I guess like that's the best of both worlds, and that's I guess also like making you want to not hire people because you get the flexibility and the freedom of doing what you like when you like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I was gonna say that I feel like in the past, for y'all the working hours bit would have been even a lot worse because y'all were shuttling between India and the US.
Yes.
And those time zones are literally the most incompatible in the world.
Yeah.
And so y'all have to do early calls, late calls, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, fine, then might as well take a break in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
But now that y'all are, in Mumbai, I feel like y'all can actually have a routine and
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for this year. Like we've never had an office space because our original plan was in 2020 we'll move to Bombay and set up an office space. Because before
in
then,
March is when we thought we would move to Bombay and set up a studio.
so we
space.
started looking for places and stuff, and that's when COVID happened and everything went for a toss.
And
So-
then we ended up moving to Goa for a year, and then we went to the US. So we were never stationary in one city for long enough to even think about like investing in a studio space.
And now we're in Bombay and we want to like set up an office and do the whole thing. So that's our goal for this year.
Mainly because that will sort of force us to lead
Have
a
a-
structured life.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like for me, I'm not a big fan of work from home, like in general. Like even for the people that work with me, and even for myself. Like I like the fact that I don't like the fact it takes me 50 minutes to get to office, but I like the fact that there's some amount of travel between home and office, and then there's like that separation you can do mentally.
And also with design, like if we're working with our juniors and something will get done so quickly if it's in person, because you can show us the work and then we'll give immediate feedback, and then but online, even if online we're sharing screen and doing it, I feel like it takes multiple rounds because that conversation isn't happening. And also when in an office you learn a lot more
About like interpersonal relationships don't develop when it's just working from home.
So
But
and there
you
are
all said
books
that-
and sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to go back to the point that y'all said y'all always wanted November to be a not like a ridiculously large practice, a limited practice. So if y'all were to look at a studio, I'm assuming now y'all are also in the zone to like bring on a few people into the team full time.
Yeah.
How would you go about that process?
That's been
It's a scary process.
It's a very daunting process, to be honest, because the last time we hired our designer, we went through over 300 applications before we finalized on one. So I think the same way this time, also when we sort of put out call for entries whenever we choose to hire next, I think it'll have to be through Instagram because that's the only way we can reach like maximum people. And we'll tell people like y'all, if you know anyone, please like.
And also it's not always like, it's not like, oh, we're so selective out of 300 people we picked one. It's not like we're not trying to brag, but it's about finding that right attitude that works for us. It's not just about skills or talent. There is a conceptual approach that we have. We're interested in culture. We're interested in all kinds of different things. That's what makes it a plural practice, right? Yeah. So when we hire, for full time, then this person also needs to be similar to us in that way of the schizophrenic kind of interest rate and having different kinds of skills, whether it's motion graphics or graphic design or editorial. And once we have that team, then we can think about hiring specific people, like only a motion designer for our motion design needs or whatever. So we're trying to figure it out ourselves because this is also new for us because we've just been so self-reliant all this time. But the past 6 months when we hired our first designer, this has been a learning for us as well on how to delegate, how exactly to delegate.
To trust, because I mean, so far it's just the two of us, right? So if he tells me to do something, I'll just do it. Like he doesn't need to, like I said, he doesn't need to supervise me, right? So, but when you hire someone else, like you have to learn to be able to like give responsibility to someone else. So that sort of took some time for us to also figure out how to do.
Y'all mentioned that working in, so I started my job literally when COVID hit. So it was majority of it was pretty much online. And I mean, I had done an internship before the same company before. And like there was a massive difference because at that point in time when I was going into the office 5 times a week, any change I needed to make, someone was sitting right next to me and it would be done. I would learn and things like that. But it's like, okay, the minute it's online, it's like scheduling times in your calendar, trying to like screen share, like tell me like what this means. I'm not sure. Like there was no continuous back and forth. There would be a scheduled half an hour call or an hour call to go through something and then get feedback on it. So there's like a lot of like translating errors as well. So I think like in that term, setting up a studio would definitely help. But in terms of y'all being, I guess, selective, other than the talent, so to say, what is like the attitude that you're looking for? Because I think that is important. That also changes generation to generation of like how people, I guess, behave also towards like the not corporate world, but just the world, like the working world.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is an attractive attitude?
I think curiosity.
Yeah, I was just gonna
more.
say someone who's just interested in learning more, or you know, like navigating things they haven't done before. Like if you tell me, oh, I haven't done this before, so I can't do it, then I mean, what am I hiring you for?
We really like people who suggest things.
Yeah.
Like for example, if we have a plan and we're doing things, and one of our designers, she would often like say, can we do this instead? And you know, I learned this new thing.
Yeah.
That's really exciting for us.
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest, we're not hiring an assistant.
Yeah.
Right? We're hiring a fellow collaborator, essentially. Like we need this person to also come in with their own things and bring that to November.
Right. And we take mentorship also very seriously. Like in the sense we know that people who want to work with us want to learn certain things from us. And we keep that very seriously. I mean, we take that very seriously. But we also know that this new person is here and they would need some level of autonomy.
Yeah.
They're not going to be just hands who we are going to control, you know. So it is very much about
and also someone who is willing to work on long-term projects.
Yeah.
I feel like a new trend that we've been seeing lately is that designers get bored very easily.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've spent, like when we worked before November also, we've spent years working on one project.
Yeah.
That's how long it takes sometimes. And you have to be open to giving that much time to something.
Especially typeface design. This typeface we just released 3.5 years of this one project, you know. So I think that long term like the interest in like all these little details will culminate into this big thing, I think is very important. And I think that's also eroding because of Instagram and the quick nature of, and I see a lot of young designers, and this is not their fault at all, it's the institute's fault, is that we are looking at how this project should be presented rather than whether this project makes sense or does it work, you know, for the client. But we're thinking of the mock-ups.
The whole angle is end goal. Okay, what is it going to look like?
So we're looking, I mean, the ideal person in November would not care about that. Of course, it will look great when we present it, but the point is that it needs to work. And how can we innovate within this little thing? Like, how can we make it as interesting as possible? Because our clients also, we work with people who are like us, like who want to do in their industry what we want to do in ours, which is shake it up, which is change things, you know. So we want more dynamic people who are interested, who are curious, and who are, of course, talented and punctual and all of those evergreen things, but beyond that.
Yeah. I think like whenever I have thought about this is like and the way I think of it is if I could have one skill in someone that's coming on board the team, like, or with just one trait, it would be motivation, because everything comes from like pure motivation.
100%. Yeah.
And like, it is so difficult to find people that are just motivated nowadays. Like the moment someone asks you, oh, do you have like a hybrid structure, work from home, or like, you know, or what are the working hours like, etc., etc. Like, these are fair questions, but I feel like they're almost red flags. Like that shouldn't be the first question that comes up, right? Like if it's towards the end, like you've had your entire conversation, interview, everything, and then like, oh, and also like, you know, just wanted to understand this about your office culture, and then you ask these questions, fine. But I feel like this is an almost filter for people nowadays, is like, or if these folks don't offer work from home, I don't even want to like.
I think you're treading on this very controversial subject of work-life balance that may get us into trouble.
We just did a campaign. I don't know if you all saw the campaigin.
We did. We're loving it.
But one of the things was, dear juniors, there's also work in work-life balance, and that one was it was a very controversial campaign.
I think the idea larger, I don't think new generation or old generation is lazy or not lazy or whatever. I think it stems from an alienation from work, you know. which I think does stem from the fact that we are overstimulated with the end product of work. Like I said, like mock-ups and all of the final jazzy, cool, whatever. I think what that does is when we want to do that, but when we get into the office and we realize that, oh, there are like 1,000 steps in between this and that. And sometimes we don't even care about, like, for example, we've shown possibly 20% of the work that we've done. Yeah. So how does that work for someone who works for us? I mean, nobody's worked for us till now, but I think there's a lot of things in play here, like I think the juniors have a valid point in the sense that they want to know what they're getting out of it, but also it is a give and take, which I don't know, maybe is lost in translation. I don't know. Maybe people are just looking to build their own identities.
Yeah.
And how does that work in a very hierarchical structure where they're not able to see what they're contributing towards? Maybe, So, but in graphic design, I don't think that problem exists.
Yeah, because graphic design is almost pretty much instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
Like you do and you see.
Yeah. And you make a change to something and then you actually see it being implemented by your client. So I don't think this industry will have that issue as much, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, the instant gratification, I think it's only in this particular industry overall, because like anything else, especially if you're in some sort of a corporate structure, you're not reaping the benefits for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
And in any way, like at least if it's, I mean, I'm pretty sure this also happens in design where you don't necessarily get the right credits for right things sometimes when like multiple people are working on something.
Yeah.
But like there's at least a taste of it, whereas like in a lot of other industries it takes years to like make any significant impact on like the grander scheme of how things are working, especially in like companies where there are like 200-300 people working, like where in just one office, for example. You're not gonna know, like you're a tiny piece in like the big puzzle, and you're not gonna know where you fit. So I think again, like having a smaller environment to work with, you get, I guess, greater responsibility in a certain way.
Today it's also like what you're looking for is someone in-house, right? So you're getting person X to come within November, and the branding of whatever they do is November. And I feel like that is so difficult because today any half decent creative talent is going to like either freelance or do whatever with their own identity, as Janu mentioned, and it's become so difficult. Like, for example, yes, you have a lot of people that join corporate jobs in marketing, etc., to like pay their dues, and for them, like maybe the end goal is some kind of C-suite level position or their own company. But they're happy to like pay their dues for like 7, 8, 10, 15 years before they move on to that. I feel like that timeline in creative is so short now that it's impossible. Like how do you, and ideally you want to find someone who's going to be with you at least for 2-3 years, because you spend 6 to 8 months just getting into a groove with them.
True.
And I feel like that's impossible now.
Right. And I think that's why we've also, with November, we try to, I mean, see, within November, there are 2 identities already, right? So in that sense, we want to like, and we always credit people who we work with on an equal way. We never say like, oh, I did the creative direction, and I mean, it's like, oh, I controlled everything, but this person did work. It's never like that. Like everybody brings things to the table, and we've been conscious of that. People who work with us will have their own identity and be able to contribute to the larger November collective identity.
These are actually some of the things we've picked up from working before and like, seeing how other people work, because we always felt small thing. Oh, actually another small thing that I picked up from working somewhere else, this is like cutting back to your previous question, is replying to every single email we get. Applications, because we've been interns at some point. We've sent internship applications to like 30-40 different companies and we haven't heard back. And we know how it feels. Like even if it's a no, I want someone to reply to me, right? So when we started, we made it like very clear that as many applications as we get, we will reply to every single one of them.
That's insane. It's a lot of time and effort as well.
It is.
Like, and I, as a person that has also applied for internships and not got answers from a lot of people, like I appreciate the effort being put, because especially if you're saying that you get 300 applicants, you're taking one person that's writing 299 emails being like, no, thank you. But like, that's time and effort to let them know.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, but that's very relevant to what we were talking about. So yeah, like things that, we wanted to create a design studio that we'd like to work at,
Yeah.
essentially, so
Even with credits, we
Yeah.
felt like, you should get credit where credit's due.
we've also been in positions where people have been very reluctant about what this credit could mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
There is a level of insecurity that always kicks in, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we were just trying to be as open about things as possible.
Yeah, no, it's tough when because it's always people working with their emotions. So then it's
Yeah.
difficult because you have to, like, even if you're willing to take let's say extend the olive branch, the other person also has to be willing to
Yeah.
reach out for it. It's not just one-sided.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to our next challenge. So this one, Juhi will go first.
Oh my God.
And this is 2 truths and a lie. So the idea is you give us 3 statements from your entire journey so far. It can be a challenge. It can be challenges or accomplishments. 2 of them need to be true and 1 is a false. We're going to try and guess which one's the lie.
I love watching horror movies. I hate driving. And I am a skincare junkie.
I'm gonna say the lie is that you love horror movies.
Okay.
I'm going to say that the lie is that you hate driving.
I love driving.
Yeah.
She's an unbelievable driver.
Oh my god.
I really should start measuring my success rate because I don't go off of the person
Yeah.
or the statements.
It's the expression.
It's entirely based on I look them dead straight in the eye.
Okay, fine, good.
and wait to see which statement they said. So that second statement was the only one where you didn't look at us and say it. So I said, okay, fine.
Okay, I'm gonna say everything. Now that you told me
I should have
this.
waited to say that.
Okay, wait.
I won't look at you when you say this.
So then now you're not playing your game.
No, now I'm actually playing the game instead of just trying to...
Okay, go for it.
Okay, 2 truths and a lie. You're not gonna look at me, right? Okay. I was in a rock band. I've hung out with Rajnikant. And I've played a small role in a very big movie.
The second and third statement could go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as
So the
well.
first one's... I'm going to go with first one.
Yeah, I was thinking literally the same thought process. But clearly that never works for me. So
what's fine?
I'll go... Okay, yeah, for the sake of difference, I'll go for the last one to be a lie.
That is a lie.
Yes! So I know, my instinct is wrong.
I was in 2 rock bands, one in school and one in college, and we recorded also.
Wow.
We played shows and stuff. It was pretty cool. And then I did hang out with Rajnikant once. It was pretty cool.
What does hangout mean?
Hang out as in I went and met him oh my god.
Yeah.
He showed him his work and all.
Oh yeah,
Showed
so
him
that's
a
great.
student
Yeah.
film that I'd made. And we hung out me and a couple of friends, we were chilling, talking to him and stuff for half an hour.
That counts as hanging out.
Yeah, that
It's pretty
counts.
cool.
I will put this video handling out.
Okay, so our next game is red flags. We're gonna give you 3 situations, and in each situation there are 2 things that are going good and 1 thing that's not so good, which is the red flag. We've adapted these situations for you in November, and you have to choose which situation you would rather be in.
3 per person?
No, 3 in total.
together.
And then what we'll do is we'll do a countdown so y'all can think, don't discuss it. Y'all can think of which situation y'all would rather be in, and then we do a countdown and y'all can say it together. So we'll
Okay.
So you just have to say the number together.
Yeah.
So we'll do 3, 2, 1 and then you'll say the number.
Okay.
Okay. Situation 1. November has an offer for acquisition from a global design studio. The studio wins at the ISTD 2024 awards, but you haven't had a client in over 6 months. Situation 2. November now has 8 in-house designers. November is invited to speak at the World Economic Forum. Shiva has to leave the AGI. Situation 3. November's profit have never been higher. You are collaborating with international design legends, but both of you haven't been able to take a break in over a year. So these are your 3 situations. And then you have to let us know which one you would like to choose. 3, 2, 1, go.
3.
1.
What?
Yeah. This is good, no?
No, we don't want to be acquired. No, stupid.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. I'm looking at the.
We can't let go of the red flag. Get it?
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, it's okay if you don't have a client in 6 months. That's
No,
okay.
we have to accept a situation.
The whole thing.
Yeah. So in that case, the red flag I'm willing to give up is
Yeah,
vacation.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
don't
anyway
engage,
we've
yeah.
done years. without
I mean, and
vacation.
we're anyway collaborating with international design leads.
For us, in fact, November has an offer for acquisition is a red flag.
Yeah, and speaking
We
at
would
the
never.
World Economic Forum, dude, that is a red flag too.
We will mostly go and be like, pay designers with all your money.
Invest in design.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's the reason we put World Economic Forum was that it's like, you wouldn't, for example, if it's a TED talk, right? Y'all speaking at a TED talk is, yes, you can imagine that happening. Y'all speaking at a design conference, obviously that's fine. Like
Right,
that's a
right.
clear fit.
Yeah.
But I do think there is kind of a need for the World Economic Forum to open up to different types of creative talent taking the stage. Just
makes
because of
sense.
the ways in which creative now leads the economies, which is why we thought to put that
Right.
in.
That makes sense.
Also, interesting thing was the acquisition part of how it's been a very split thought process
Yeah.
on this podcast. Like whenever we've put this in some sort of a red flag, I would say actually maybe not even split. Like 60-70% of them might not want to be acquired, might
Yeah,
consider
yeah.
this actually to be a red
Red
flag.
flag.
Yeah.
So that's also been like an interesting, I guess, revelation. That and the team, like the size of the team. When we've put like 200 people, sometimes people are like, okay, that's a red flag. But
Yeah, I feel like with the acquisition thing, people are just not tired of the industry yet.
Yeah.
Like we have the
Yeah.
younger founders, right? So
Right, right.
y'all aren't tired yet. I feel like 10 years from now when we do this, maybe there'll be more and more people.
But I don't know if acquisition would be the thing we'd
Yeah.
anyway want to do. I mean, I would rather just shut down,
Yeah.
rather than being
Or put it on
acquired.
pause or
Yeah.
whatever and do other things maybe. But I don't think November will ever go because if someone's buying November, they're buying us.
Yeah.
Our identities. That will never be for
Yeah.
sale. So
yeah, technically for the industry, it'll be just them being employees rather than
right.
Yeah. So
Entrepreneurs, yeah.
again, it depends, right? Like if, let's say, 5 years from now, y'all do have 6 or 7 in-house people that have been there for a while, then there's more to November than just the two of you, right?
Yeah.
So then that
Yeah.
acquisition is also diluted.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, interesting insights. Let's move on to our final segment. This is the rapid fire, so self-explanatory. I'll say the name of the person who we want
Okay.
to answer. So, Juhi, how many all-nighters do you pull in a year?
I'm good with managing my time. He's the one who pulls in all
I
nighters.
knew this was going to come.
So, Shiva, how many all-nighters in a year?
Few, I'd say. I mean, it has come down. I think maybe 10 in a year. No, that's like once a month almost. No.
No, less.
Maybe 4
Yeah.
a year. But before I was a proper night owl.
Yeah.
Like I would work all night. That was my thing. I would sleep in the morning for like 5 hours and then I would work the rest of the time.
creative stereotypes.
Yeah, I was exactly
I
that.
mean, it's so stupid. There's no need for that to happen. I mean, you
Then
can
I all are
do...
even.
Yeah, like
In
what...
terms of stupid. Okay, so Juhi, how many days of leave have you taken in the last year?
Leave. I mean, I can't count it on my finger. I mean, it's just whenever there's like a lean period, I'll just take off.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Shiva, what is the scrappiest thing y'all have done to build your business?
So the Jugadi thing that I did was when I was invited to speak at Curious in 2018. I went on stage and someone said, what would be your dream project? And I said, designing next year's Curious. And I got that project. Now, I don't know if Rajesh would have thought about it if I didn't say, like, look at him and say it. But that was pretty risky and stupid, but it worked.
Yeah, I didn't know that story. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Juhi, what has been your favorite project till date?
I love working on the KDY projects. We did 2 years. We did 2019 and we did 23. Both enjoyed thoroughly. Apart from these two, I think I loved working on this collaboration we did with Nicobar a few years back. It's a collection we designed with them called Nazara. I think in that project, we put a lot of our personal interests also in. It was homeware and things that we personally also enjoy. And yeah, I think that was a project that was
Fair
nice.
enough. Juhi, did you ever question whether it was worth it?
The project or November?
No, November.
Yeah, no regrets. Hashtag no regrets.
So you didn't question.
I didn't question it.
Okay, yeah. Shiva, what is your proudest moment with November?
Proudest moment. It will be when we launch our website.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Juhi, what is the...
Sorry, I feel like this is a running joke. I think it's a good
Yeah,
thing now.
yeah,
We need to like push it as much as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, no? Put ourselves in a corner.
Juhi, what is the weirdest place from where you've worked?
Weird. I don't know, like cabs in Bombay. That's
That was a
weird.
big culture shock for me when I came to Bombay. Like, we got into a cab. She, another friend of ours, both of them just opened their laptops, and I was like, "What is this life?"
I mean, you're gonna be in the cab for an hour and a half anyway. Might
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
make the most of it.
Fair enough. Shiva, what was your biggest sacrifice to make November possible?
Sacrifice. I actually sold a kidney. I'm joking.
I don't think we've made sacrifices.
No.
I think we've made sacrifices in terms of having a structured life.
Yeah.
Like no concept of weekends or a 5-day work week, or no concept of like, standard holiday period or anything. Everything
Yeah.
is very variable for us.
But to be honest, only now do I feel like, okay, now I'd like
yeah,
some structure.
up until
but
now, we never felt like we need 2 days off a week
Yeah.
or we need holidays.
in
I
fact,
mean,
I think that was an advantage in the
Yeah.
beginning, because we could take like a nice 1 month off because we worked all
Yeah.
the time before. So it was very variable. So I don't think we've sacrificed anything. Like, there's no loss. Like, it's always
Fair
been
enough.
good.
Shiva, what was one time you felt like you let November down?
Let November down. No.
No?
No. Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt that.
Nice.
No.
Juhi, would you ever retire?
no, I've never thought of it. No, I don't think so.
No? Okay. And Juhi, which hobby of yours did your work kill?
I
This
think
is
the
our
work
hobby.
is a hobby. Yeah.
This is basically, drawing and
Yeah.
watching films, and like all of these things is what we were not supposed to do in school. So when we came to college, it was like Wonderland. So
True.
Okay, fine. Together now. Books or podcasts?
books,
Wow. iPad or notebook?
notebook.
Are y'all morning people or night owls?
Day.
Used to be night owl, now former night owl, now day person.
Fair enough. And what's your favorite social media?
Instagram, only because that's the only thing I'm lurking on.
I prefer Twitter. I'm glad that it didn't change the way that we expected it to change. But
Nice.
I like Twitter more than Instagram for sure.
Awesome. So that concludes the rapid fire segment, bringing us almost to the end of our conversation. We ask every guest to ask our next guest a question. So we'll now give you your question from our previous guest.
Okay.
My question to you is, as a founder or as an entrepreneur, if you were to give one piece of advice to a newcomer in your industry, what would it be and why?
Okay, I think my advice would be to get all your formalities sorted. Like, get all your legal stuff, have a good lawyer on hand, make your contracts, register yourself as whatever MSME or this and that, whatever, get your GST certificates. Like, don't wait till something big happens to do this. Just if you're starting, just get all of this sorted and then start. Because I think once you start working, and then if you have to keep going back with all of this, it becomes too much. Just like get all of this sorted out of the way, get it out of the way, and then you proceed.
Two things. I would say, this is a great point. I would say ask and you shall receive, almost always. Like, email people that you want to work with. Just like make connections, there's nothing like weird about it. I think it's a very good practice to pitch. We've gotten some great projects just because we emailed the brand and we said we like them, and that's one. The other thing is, don't be afraid to say no. This is a big problem that I had. I could just never say no to anybody, because I always saw potential, like I can do something cool here. And oftentimes it doesn't work out that way. So sometimes when you follow your instincts when saying no. Like, if you don't feel it, it's fine.
Did you have a bad experience with some kind of like any registration issue?
No,
or-
not at all. In fact, I had everything sorted beforehand, but I've seen friends
Yeah.
who've struggled with this, right? So then I just feel like, I mean, if you had all of this sorted before, then you didn't have to care about it.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like you can just manage time. Like, if you say no to projects you really don't want to do, if you have all your formalities taken care of, then you can just manage your time better.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess one aspect we didn't really touch on before, but the concept of saying no, I guess for y'all would be a lot given that you're a small person team. So like, what is your thoughts on like the scalability of like November as a whole as well? Like, what is your vision for it in terms of, given that you want to be involved in every single project, do you all see that there's like a ceiling to it? Or like, how do you manage that?
No, we definitely want to be involved in every single project. We want to lead every single project. I think in terms of scalability, our thoughts are the same as they were 6 years ago. We don't intend to become a big team.
Big as in like 100%
100
team.
people. Yeah,
We're
like,
definitely
we'll
looking
hire
at,
more people. But then
yeah.
also, we don't make like 5-10 year plans.
Yeah.
We'll take it as it comes.
because we had a 5-10 year plan and COVID basically.
Yeah. So now we're like,
destroyed
there's no
that,
point.
so-
Like, because if
Yeah.
tomorrow some other opportunity arises that's really good that we want to take, then, we don't want our words to hold us back. We want to be able to experience that as well. So,
And there are so many things that we want to do that are not client projects. Like we want to start our own things, So it's very plural, and we'd like to keep it that way and not make like too many plans.
Yeah, very cool. I guess just one last question about what was the 5-year plan and how different are y'all from that right now?
well, 5-year plan was 4 years ago to set up a studio in Bombay. So,
Yeah.
So we've just
just
started
started that 4 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, the plan was like a very traditional: rent a space, make a studio, hire like 4-5 designers, and like just lead that life. But then everything sort of changed. So
Fair enough. But yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, it was great.
It was lovely.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I hope you didn't feel like another podcast joke.
no.
No.
He it was only both of us.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to be another.
I'm totally going to be a podcast douchebag.
It's not a joke. Sorry.